The rain on Spire Station didn't fall so much as cling a mist of recycled water and chemical grit that left a metallic tang on the tongue. It beaded on glass stones, sleeked the promenade tiles, and carried the faint smell of overheated wiring. Jace Rourke pulled his threadbare coat closer and guided his son through the crush of bodies along Cyberpunk, the station's sagging underbelly where budgets went to rot and people went to be forgotten. Overhead, holo ads stuttered and blinked. Bliss, deliverance, a new you. The slogans cycled through dozens of tongues, each one promising a door that didn't exist. Hovercabs drifted by in lazy swarms, their canopies smoked dark, their passengers sealed away from the damp and the stairs. Vendors barked about spiced protein spirals and knockoff mental. Somewhere a speaker played a cheery old anthem that didn't belong in a place like this. Stay close, Kip, Jace said. He tried to make it sound easy. Kip to everyone who mattered squeezed his father's hand with small, warm fingers the color of pale gold. His wings were tucked tight. Under a tiny cloak Jace had stitched from scrap sailcloth, the seams uneven but sturdy. Kip was 7, though station folk couldn't decide if he looked younger or older. That was the trouble with being half one thing and half another. His tail flicked behind him like a restless pendulum, keeping time to music only he seemed to. Here, Jace's attention kept sliding to the slate vibrating against his hip. Another offer. Another run to the edges. Another chance at enough credits to buy more than survival, maybe even a room. With a real window, not a curved polymer panel. Pretending to be sky, Kip had never seen an open horizon. His whole world had been pressure seals and rotating decks. They'd come from the Orchid Vault absurd name. Expensive door where the station's well-fed congratulated one another for being well-fed. Jace had been there on business, discreet transport. Clean hands, no questions. He was good at that. Now, ever since the war ended and left him with a scar under his ribs, a dead crew, and a talent for moving what others wanted moved without ever admitting it existed. The deal had gone fine. Money would come. Life would keep grinding forward. And yet, as they pushed through the wet glow of Cyberpunk, Jace felt the old hollow open in his chest. The one credits couldn't patch. The hollow that had been there for 4 years. He pressed it down the way he always did, like shoving contraband into a false compartment and sealing it tight. Dad, Kip's voice cut through the noise, bright and curious. Why do the signs promise different things, but everyone still looks heavy? Jace glanced down into those startling green eyes, so familiar it sometimes hurt. Because it's easy to sell a wish, he said quietly. Hard to build the world that makes it true. Kip considered that, then asked with the bluntness only children owned. Did you keep your wishes? The question landed hard. Jace's mouth opened, then his earcom chimed. A sharp little chirp. He seized the interruption like a lifeline. He tapped his earpiece. Rourke, got your clearance tags? Came the voice of Oren Vask, his contact in freight control. Gruff, amused, always counting favors. Doc C-19, departure slot at 0600. Your bucket's fueled and signed. Jace exhaled. You're a saint, Vask. I'm a businessman. Vask corrected. You owe me 8, 7, 8, Vask insisted, and the line clicked off. Jace lowered his hand and realized Kip wasn't walking. His son stood 3 paces back, perfectly still, staring into the shadow beside a shuttered storefront where a cracked neon coil buzzed and died in slow pulses. The place had once sold luxuries in silks. Now it sold nothing at all. Kip. Jace tightened his grip. Come on. Dad, Kip said. And there was something in his tone Jace hadn't heard before, not fear, not wonder, but a trembling mixture of both. Look. Jace followed his gaze. A woman sat huddled against the rusted shutters, half hidden by the dim spill of dying light. Her hair, once silver-white if memory meant anything, hung in knotted ropes around her. Gaunt face, her skin held a dull, dusty sheen of gold like Kip's hands, but faded as if the color had been scrubbed away by too many cold nights. Her wings were folded tight, membranes torn in places and scarred over with ugly stitching. She wore armor that might once have been ceremonial plated and elegant, now battered, patched with scavenged polymer and tape. On her lap rested an old float cradle, the kind that used to sell to new parents before the company imploded in a scandal. The cradle hummed weakly, its anti-grav struggling. Inside sat a small crone domestic unit, a simple home companion bot, the kind programmed to remind someone to drink water or play music while they cooked. Its eye lenses flickered an exhausted blue. The woman rocked the cradle and sang to the machine. Her voice was rough, almost gone, but the melody, the shape of it, made Jace's blood turn to ice. It was an airy cradle song, one of those tunes that seemed built from light and memory rather than notes. Jace had heard it in a different life, in a small berth on a mid-ring apartment block. Heard it 1,000 nights while he pretended not to be watching the woman who sang. The way she tipped her head and smiled like the universe had never heard her. He couldn't breathe. That was impossible. She was gone. The shuttle blast for years ago had been declared final. Debris recovered. Trace genetics. Official stamps. A memorial with borrowed flowers and real grief. A certificate with a name printed in cold ink. Don't stare, he told himself. Keep walking. Keep your world intact. Dad, Kip whispered, voice steady with certainty that felt like a knife. That's Mom. Jace's hand shot out to the nearest support pole. The metal was slick with condensation, cold enough to sting. No, he managed. No, Kip. Your mother. She has the mark. Kip pointed with one small golden finger on her left wing, the moon-shaped spot. You said it was lucky. Jace's eyes snapped to the woman's wings. There it was, a darker crescent in the membrane of her left wing, subtle but unmistakable, like a bruise shaped by fate. A mark he'd once traced with his thumb, half in awe, half in love. While she laughed and told him luck didn't always mean good. The station tilted. The noise of Sumpwalk fell away, replaced by the pounding of his own heart. Stay here, Jace croaked to Kip. Don't move. He didn't wait for agreement. His boots splashed through shallow puddles as he crossed the short distance. Each step felt like forcing himself through thickening gel, like walking against The pull of a gravity well, ma'am, he said, voice strangled. Excuse me. The woman flinched. Her wings flexed as if preparing to bolt, then folded tight again. She lifted her head. Jace found himself staring into green eyes he had loved, eyes that had once looked at him like he was a strange and marvelous puzzle. But those eyes held no recognition now, only exhaustion, weariness, the resignation of someone used to being, offered cruelty or scraps. Please, she said, and the word was her voice hers, unmistakable. We haven't done anything. He gets cold. I just need him warm. Jace tried to speak. Nothing came. Her name scraped out of him anyway, more breath than sound. Leora. A flicker passed behind her gaze, a spark trying to catch. It died. I don't. She shook her head, slow and pained. I'm sorry. I don't know that name. You have me confused. No, Jace whispered. He crouched, bringing himself level with her, close enough to see the fine scar that ran from her temple to her cheekbone. A map of something terrible, a scar that hadn't been there before. I know you, he said, forcing the words past the lump in his throat. I know your song. I know that mark. I know the way you're holding that bot like it matters more than air, because that's how you held our son the day he was born. Her breath hitched. The little chrome unit chirped softly, a low-power beep, and she immediately looked down, adjusting the thin blanket wrapped around its metal torso. Shh, she murmured, not to Jace but to the machine. It's okay. Mommy's here. The word mommy broke something open in Jace's chest. A small movement beside him. Kip had ignored the order, of course. He stood at Jace's elbow now, gaze fixed on the woman with an intensity that made him look older than 7. Hi, Kip said brightly, as if greeting someone at a neighbor's door. I'm Kip. What's your baby's name? The woman's attention shifted to him, really shifted, and her face changed. Confusion crumpled into something raw and aching. Her hand lifted, trembling, reaching toward Kip's cheek, stopping just short. She swallowed. You're beautiful. You look like someone I used to dream about. I dream about you too, Kip said, simple as sunlight. Every night you sing the Sleep Moon's song, the one with the soft blue part. A sound escaped her, half sob, half word. She stared at Kip as if he were a door she'd forgotten existed. Jace rose slowly, mind racing, alive. Here, unremembering. How? Where had she been? What had been done to her? We need to get you out of here, he said, voice firming into the steady tone he used in emergencies. Somewhere warm, somewhere safe. She recoiled. No clinics, no facilities. Her grip tightened on the float cradle. They take things in those places. They took. Her face twisted as if the memory burned. I can't. I just know they took. Jace raised both hands, palms out. Okay, no facilities. Just warmth. He nodded toward the distant docking corridor. I've got a ship. It's not pretty, but it has heat and locks, food, a place to rest. She studied him, suspicion and fatigue wrestling in her eyes. Why would you help me? You don't know me. Jace let out a broken laugh. Lady, I married you. The words sounded insane and true at once. I burned breakfast for you every morning because you pretended the galley unit was possessed. You hated sweet cough and stole mine anyway. His voice cracked. I've spent for years believing you were dead. Her eyes glistened. Still no recognition, but the outline of something pressed against the fog. Kip stepped closer. Fearless, he's not lying, he said. He keeps your old picture on the wall even when he pretends he doesn't look at it. The woman's throat moved as she swallowed. She looked from Jace to Kip to the flickering bot in the cradle. She tried, and failed. Her hand went to her forehead, fingers digging in as if she could pry memory loose. You don't have to force it, Jace said softly. Not right now. Just come out of the rain. A long moment stretched. Then Kip did what Kip always did. He offered faith-like. It was the most practical tool in the universe. He nodded toward the float cradle. Your baby can come to. Dad doesn't leave family behind. The woman flinched at the word family as if it hurt, as if it soothed. Finally, she whispered, He has to come. He needs me. He comes, Jace said without hesitation. All of you, together. Jace and Kip steadied the float cradle. Between them, the chrome unit beeped once, a sound oddly content. The woman pushed herself to her feet, swaying slightly, too thin, too tired, but upright. Where are we going? She asked. Home, Kip answered before Jace could. Certainty wrapped around the word like a promise. We're going home. Home, it turned out, was a dented courier hollow called the Dented Luck. Old enough to have flown under 3 different registry flags and stubborn enough to still run. It smelled faintly of engine coolant and the cinnamon resin they'd hauled to ports ago. But the air was warm. The locks worked. The water came out hot if you begged the heater and hit it twice. Jace led the woman to the narrow crew bunk while Kip fussed over the float cradle, plugging the bot into a charging port, straightening the blanket with solemn care. You can't sleep here, Jace said, gesturing to the lower bunk hers. Once, he had never been able to bring himself to change. On the shelf sat a cracked datasheet. On the wall, held by a magnet, a faded photo, a hydroponics aisle lit by grow lamps. 2 people grinning like fools, an airy woman in pale ceremonial ribbons. A human man in a too large shirt, their hands linked. The woman's fingers hovered over the photo. That's me, she whispered, half question. Jace nodded, throat tight. And me. And Kip, before he got big enough to argue. A fragile laugh trembled in her chest and didn't quite make it out. Were we happy? Jace sank onto the opposite bunk, exhaustion crashing into him now that adrenaline had somewhere to go. Unbearably, he said. The neighbors complained. Her eyes shone. What happened to me? He rubbed his palms over his face. There was an explosion. A shuttle. You were headed to the commerce ring for a commission restoring an old ceremony instrument. You were excited. Then she swallowed. They said no survivors. She looked down at the chrome unit. The baby she'd kept alive with her own need to keep going. I knew, she admitted, voice raw. Some part of me knew he wasn't real, but pretending made me matter if I was taken care of. Something. I had a reason to wake up. You matter, Jace said fiercely. You mattered before the pretending. You matter now. From the cargo corridor, Kip's voice drifted in, animated and unstoppable, explaining docking procedures. To the bot like it was a student. The chrome unit responded with patient beeps. The woman's mouth trembled. He talks so much. He gets it from me, Jace said. And the sound of his own voice cracked into a grin he didn't fully trust yet. She shut her eyes. And when she spoke again, her tone changed. Like a door shifting on old hinges. I remember. A sound. Strings. I played something. I was good. Jace's heart lurched. Your skyloot. He breathed. You were more than good. You made people cry at weddings and deny it. Her brows pinched. Skyloot. She repeated, tasting the word like it unlocked a corridor in her mind. I want to remember. She pressed a fist to her chest. But every time I reach, it's like something pushes back. Then we don't fight it, Jace said. We go slow. No pressure. You're safe here as long as you want. You can learn Kip again at your pace. And if the memories come, they come. If they don't, we build new ones. She opened her eyes. You can do that. After 4 years, Jace stared at his hands, then at her. I kept breathing, he said. That's not the same as moving on. Something softened in her gaze. She reached out, hesitant, and laid her cool fingers over his. Her pulse fluttered. Beneath her skin fast, uncertain, alive. Tell me about him, she whispered. Tell me about our son. So Jace did. He told her Kip's first word, UHO, delivered with conviction right before a market stand collapsed. He told her about Kip's first glide 3 feet to seconds, then panic and furious indignation at gravity. He told her about Kip's obsession with how things worked, and the way he disassembled Jace's comm unit so many times the screws had learned his tiny fingerprints. He told her about the songs Kip hummed in his sleep songs Jace couldn't sing right no matter how he tried. He told her about thunder noodles from a vendor on Deck 7 and Kip's elderly best friend, an amphibious mechanic who cried openly at sentimental holodramas and pretended it was an allergy. The woman listened as if each detail was a lifeline thrown into dark water. Sometimes she laughed in little surprised bursts. Sometimes silent tears slid down her cheeks, leaving clean tracks through the grime that still lingered when Jace finished. Station night dimmed the cabin lights. The ship fell quiet except for the soft hum of life support. I want to try something, she said suddenly, if that's okay. Anything, Jace breathed. She closed her eyes and began to sing. At first, her voice was thin, as if the years had sanded it down. But the melody found its way through, bending the air, painting the cramped cabin with something that felt like color. The Sleep Moon's song, the one Jace had carried like a bruise, the one Kip had learned from old recordings and memory and need. From the corridor, a small voice joined, half asleep but perfectly placed. Kip, standing in the doorway with rumpled wings, sang the harmony like he'd been born holding it. The woman's eyes flew open. The note wavered, then steadied. She turned toward Kip as if seeing him for the first time, and the thousandth that once, when the song ended, The silence that followed felt sacred, like the ship itself was holding its breath. "I remember," she whispered, hands pressed to her chest as if keeping her heart from escaping. "Not everything, but I remember holding someone small and warm. I remember refusing to stop singing because it was the only thing that worked." Her voice broke. "That was real." Kip stepped forward carefully, as if the word might shatter. "Mom." She opened her arms. Kip crossed the space in an instant and crashed into her with the full force of 4 years of longing. Their wings tangled instinctively, making a private shelter of feathers and membrane. The womanly aura, even if she didn't fully know the name yet, clutched him like she'd been starving and he was air. Jay stayed where he was, hand braced against the bunk. He didn't join. Not because he didn't want to, because he wanted to so badly it hurt, but because this moment belonged to them in a way it never could to him. He had been the bridge, the connection between mother and child run older than vows. "I missed you." Kip muffled into her shoulder. "Every day." "I'm here," she whispered, voice full and shaking. "I'm here." Kip pulled back, eyes shining. "Can the bot stay? He's weird, but I like him." Leora glanced at the chrome unit. It beeped softly, its lenses brighter now that it had power. She stroked its smooth casing the way she had on the street, and her expression held gratitude so fierce it looked like pain. "He stays," she said. "He kept me alive when I couldn't keep myself." Jace swallowed. "Then he's family." Leora looked at him over Kip's head, and for a heartbeat the fog thinned. "Not recognition, something like the shape of it. You," she murmured. "You're stubborn." Jace managed a shaky smile. "That's the nicest thing anyone's called me all week." The weeks that followed weren't easy. Leora woke from nightmares with a strangled gasp, convinced she was back in alleys, back under fluorescent cruelty. Sometimes she didn't know Jace. Sometimes she clung to the chrome unit like a shield. But Kip sat with her through the worst of it, telling her stories, showing her rocks he'd collected from different ports, giving her his life in small pieces until it began to fit. Jace called in a favor with a trauma specialist from the diaspora wards, an old healer who made ship calls and spoke gently about memory, self-defense. "Sometimes the mind locks doors to keep you breathing," the healer said. "Sometimes the keys return. Sometimes you build new rooms instead." Progress came in flashes, Leora remembering she hated sweet cough, remembering Jace snored unless he slept on his left side, remembering a meteor shower and a crowded observation deck and strangers cheering when a newborn cried. Most of all, remembering again and again that she loved them. 2 months after the night in Sumpwalk, Jace found her in the cargo hold with a long, narrow case on her lap. His hands went cold at the sight. Inside was her skyloot, stored untouched for years because he couldn't sell it and couldn't bear to hear it. "You kept it," she said without looking up. "I couldn't let it go," Jace admitted. Her fingers traced the worn wood. "The strings are ruined. The body's cracked. Then we fix it," Jace said simply. She looked up. And there it was, that spark of purpose returning, the one that had drawn him to her in the first place. "I'd need tools, materials." Then we get them. We'll turn the spare hold into a workshop if we have to. What if I'm not as good? She asked, fear breaking through. Then you learn again, Jace said. And I'll be right here annoying you and refusing to let you quit. She laughed real and warm and leaned into him like she remembered where she fit months past. The sky loot came back to life. A project shared between all three, Jace sourcing rare resin and proper tuning pegs, Kip serving as eager apprentice, Leora's hands remembering what her mind still struggled to name. The day she played a full piece again, the cargo hold filled with mechanics, port vendors, drifters, the strange patchwork family the station built when it had nothing else. They sat on crates and stood against bulkheads and listened without speaking, as music poured into the air like healing made audible. After the last note faded, silence held for one sacred heartbeat. Then applause erupted, and Kip whooped loud enough to make the chrome bot flash a warning light. Later, when the ship was quiet and Kip finally asleep, Leora stood at the observation pane watching Collis Spire rotate against the stars. I want to go back, she said. Jace joined her, wary. Back where? To the underdecks, she said softly. To the place you found me. There are others. People lost inside themselves. People who don't know anyone is still looking. You want to help them, Jace realized. I want to prove broken isn't permanent, she said. I can't reclaim the years I lost, but maybe I can turn them into something that matters. Jace considered the logistics, space, contacts, medical support. A network to reconnect the missing with families who had buried them. He considered the courage it took for her to look at her pain and decide to build a lantern out of it. I know someone on Deck 9, he said slowly, used to coordinate station outreach before the cuts. If anyone knows where to start, it's her. Leora's smile bloomed, small but bright. That's a yes. That's me being doomed to a life of impossible projects, Jace said dryly. You say that like it's bad. It's Tuesday, Jace replied, and she laughed and kissed him tentative. Familiar, real. From the corridor, Kip's voice drifted out, scandalized. Are you being gross again? Old people affection is dangerous to observers. Go to sleep, Jace and Leora said in unison, laughing. Kip grinned, luminous. The bot says he supports the rescue plan. As if on cue, the chrome unit beeped, its lenses flickering in a pattern Kip insisted meant enthusiastic approval. Jace took Leora's hand and looked out at the cold scatter of stars beyond the station's fake sky. They wouldn't get their lost years back. They wouldn't rebuild the past. But they could build something new, something honest about the scars, stubborn about the love, and brave enough to go looking for people still trapped in the dark. Some promises weren't easy. Some were heavy. But some didn't expire, and somewhere below, in alleys washed by metallic rain, someone else might be singing to something broken. Not because it was foolish, but because it was the only way to keep hope alive until help arrived.